Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So blaze one if you got one, because this should be an interesting one. I don't even know what it's going to be about, but I think it's going to be interesting. I do know what it's going to be about. Star Trek. First episode. Next Generation. I don't know if you remember it. I watched it for the first time. Well, for the X number of time, but it was my wife's first time watching it. And I hadn't seen it in a very long time. And I have to be honest, I am a Star Trek fanboy. Unapologetic Star Trek fanboy. I bristle at Boyd into the context. I am a Star Trek fanboy. And put it this way. I experienced it in a very particular way. And that's why I said blaze one if you got one, because I want you to be there with me. I don't know when it came out. I think in the 80s. But you find out there's going to be a new Star Trek. You love the old Star Trek. You were an amazing fan of the old Star Trek. As a child, you would run home to see if you got cable because you wanted to watch Star Trek. That's where you were. Next Generation comes out. You're older, but you still remember the old Star Trek. But you're older. There's a new Star Trek, Next Generation. All right? And you're there. You got your drink. You're there. You're waiting. And it comes on. And Jean-Luc Picard's voice, for the first time, says those words that you've remembered from the original series. We boldly go where no man has gone before. And he's saying it. Captain Kirk usually says that line, but Jean-Luc Picard is saying that line. So you know there's been a passover from Kirk to Picard. Picard's voice is different, but it's steady. And it works for you. Goddamn, he's Jean-Luc Picard. You see a silhouette. You haven't seen him. You see a silhouette, and then he comes out of the darkness. And you think, he's not Kirk, but okay. Bald. Older guy, but he's in a 24th century or whatever. He's fit. He's had all of his needs met his entire life. He's a human being. They believe people when they say they're a human being. They have worth. And so they make sure that their needs are met. They come up with a society that makes that work. And you're watching as they're on this new ship. It's similar, but it's different. You can tell it's a new generation, and you're wowing out as you're watching this. Now, as the show goes on, and this is what I want to get to, I'm wowing out over all this. As I'm watching with my wife, I'm recounting almost in the same way that I'm recounting it here. And it gets to the point where a being comes on the ship. It's Q. Now, you've watched this enough to know Q is something different. He's something different. He's fucking amazing. He doesn't register as a normal life form. Q is, for the most part, above it all. Space, matter, and time, absolute power of those elements. We don't know anything beyond that. Understand what I mean? Like, absolute control of space, matter, and time. That's all we know. That's all we know. He has absolute control over any and everything that we know. Think about that. Now, Picard doesn't know that. But this being comes across on his ship. And he tells Picard, go back. Now he comes to him dressed absolutely ridiculously. And he tells him, go back. You're not supposed to be out here. Now, Picard knows this being is powerful, but he doesn't know how powerful. And from Picard's perspective, 24th century, they realize that there are beings that they're unaccustomed to. They're beings that are beyond what our science understands. We've met those beings. We understand there are many types of beings out in the universe. We've only discovered a small sector of our universe, meaning we've only pushed out. Believe it or not, when you look at the star system, even with warp drive, they've only gone a tiny amount. And yet we realize there are beings out here that can blow our minds. This being appears on his ship. He doesn't know what Q is. And he just approaches Q as if he's some other being. What type of being are you? That's what he says. Right off, what type of being are you? Yes, I'm annoyed that you're on my ship, but what type of being are you that you can appear on my ship in this way? They have teleporter technology, so again, this doesn't blow Picard's mind. He doesn't know what Q is. He doesn't assume that Q is God. He doesn't do that. It doesn't cross his mind because they've met other beings in the universe, meaning we've seen these abilities. These abilities can be replicated with technology. You've done nothing yet that I've seen to blow my mind. Now, as it goes on, though, Q essentially traps the ship. And he does so in a way that seems almost magical. But again, Picard, he's looking at this like this being is immensely powerful. This being can kill us. So when Q takes him, puts him into trial, He puts him on trial. And he essentially says, you don't need to be out in this universe. Your species. Look at what you've done to your planet. You guys have killed and murdered, and you're still those lowly heathens, those apes, who was killing and murdering each other. And he's showing a scene from humans past. Essentially, he's holding him in a court from humans past right after a nuclear or an atomic blast that essentially wiped out humanity. Picard is sitting on a stand. He's sitting down, and Q is giving him the things to read your charges. Now, the charges that he's telling him to read are for the crimes, the pains, the things that humanity have did to one another. He's putting humanity on trial. This godlike being that has absolute control over space, matter, and time is putting humanity on trial. Humanity, in this very particular context, is represented by the ship, the Enterprise. It always has been. Even in the original series, it always represents Earth. This is the level of Earth. In this particular case, it does the same thing. It represents Earth. But in this very specific case, they made it very clear. Do what you're going to do on this mission. We're going to review it. And are you saying that you will represent humanity in the way you interact on this mission? Because you're going to fail this mission. And if you do, we're going to find that you're not worthy to be out in the star system. It's godlike being that Picard knows that at any moment can extinguish his existence. Even though he's just thinking this is another being. We're not big enough. We're not powerful enough to do anything about it. So yes, I'm going to go along with this. But the awesome scene is, read your charges. Picard looks at this and says, I see no charges here. And he's telling him, read your charges. Now, from the standpoint of Picard and everybody else, this looks like maybe a holographic thing. But Deanna Troi is an empath, and she's saying, this is real. What if you're thinking this is real? This is absolutely real. Q has absolute control of space, matter, and time, meaning he created these beings. He created this trial. This could be in some pocket universe that Q himself created. It could be anything. It could be anywhere. And yet they're there. It's impossible, but they're there. And Deanna Troi being able to read an empath, meaning I'm feeling stuff from these people who are in this room. They're not holograms. They're real. Read your charges. Read the charges that we're calling on man in the sense of murdering, leaving people to starve, leaving people homeless, hoarding resources, having one war after another for ways of just trying to distributing resources on our planet. I want more. These are your charges. Read your charges. And this is still how you all are right now. Now, Picard is indignant about this. And to some degree, I would argue, embarrassed by this. Like, honestly, I think he honestly looked at this and he looks at this and says, no. We've gotten past this stuff. And Q is like, no, you haven't. And we're not going to let you export this shit out into the universe. And Picard, being resolute, we've decided that all of the grievances and everything else from other nations are gone. Meaning on Earth, by our own laws, we've made the decision that all of those things are in the past. They're irrelevant to us now. There's a pardon on everybody. You started from scratch. And this is the world that we've created, starting from scratch. If you're going to judge us by anything, judge us by how we are. It's a good thing that it was Picard out there, because anybody else would have failed that test. And Picard, being as resolute as he is, being the avatar of humanity, going out into the universe, Q says, fine, we'll judge you. I'm going to be your prosecutor. I'm going to be your judge. And I'm going to be essentially the person who makes the determination on whether you proceed. And he lets Picard go, knowing full well that Picard is going to be under close examination by some godlike being in the thing that they're about to encounter. As you can tell by how I'm recounting this, I was wowing out over that episode. Because a lot of things are taking place in that episode. This godlike being is passing judgment on man. And the scale to which he's passing judgment on man is done from purely this level of life. From the standpoint of life, I am passing judgment on you. Meaning, to some degree, Q is making this argument that the basis of universe, meaning out there, is somehow to do with your ability to cooperate. And man's inability to cooperate would not be exported into the cosmos. Now, anybody who looks at Star Trek knows there are a lot of beings out there who don't cooperate. So this is fucking ridiculous. But I think from a philosophical standpoint, this is man judging himself. That was a person who wrote this. He's looking at this and he's looking at man and essentially saying, are you ready to go into the cosmos? Are you ready for this? Are you going to turn around and export what you are into the universe? Or have you been able to put that down? Have the children grown up? That's powerful. That's powerful. I mean, because he's essentially saying we're judging you by the things that you've done to yourselves. And we don't want you to do those things to other people. And Picard resolutely saying, yes, we've put down our toys. We're adults. And we can go out in as adults. I find it fascinating. I was wowing out the entire time I watched that episode. And you can understand my wife would be like, dude, you're killing me. You're killing me, man. You're killing me. It's a fascinating thing. I mean, Picard is essentially encountering this being that's immensely powerful. Now, the fact that he's encountering this being in and of itself is amazing. You have this being that he's never seen before that doesn't register as any amount of life if he's ever come across an instance of life. And as they go on through the episodes, he encounters Q over and over and over again. And you get to understand that, oh yeah, Q is not like us. He's not like us. This is not a ship somewhere. This is an intelligence that has the capacity to essentially control over space, matter, and time. And that works from the standpoint of a continuum that allows that particular being to function in that particular way. Meaning at any point they can clip his wings. Doesn't that sound like a game space? Like, doesn't it sound like Q had the ability to find a way to hack out the system, and being outside of that system can interact with the system in any which way they choose? They have the software to figure out how do you change that world. At that point, you can construct it as a technology. Yes, I can interject somebody into that particular matrix because we're outside that matrix. If that's what Q is, that's mind-blowing. That in of itself is mind-blowing. Now, it's possible that they're not technically outside that particular matrix. They may be in a matrix to themselves. But they've created somewhat of a quagmire. Oh, man, I can't get into that one. That will go too ridiculous. There's one episode where Q wanted to die. He was tired of it. I'm tired of this existence. I want to go. I've been here for eons. I want to go. And then you get into this thing, well, no, you can't die. The whole point of being a Q is that you're eternal. That's your birthright. You can't give up that birthright. Having a lawsuit on Voyager under human law to make a determination of whether a being that's eternal should be able to end his eternity. That's a good episode. That's a really good episode. Look, all I would say with this episode, tell me what you think. I think Q is fucking amazing. How did you experience your first episode of Next Generation? I experienced it as this thing of man judging man. Man looking at man and saying, when are you going to put down your toys? And Picard, in his point, saying, we've beyond that. This is the 24th century. We've put down those toys. We're adults. Yes, it took us to wipe out civilization again, but yes, we're adults. Yeah, I find it amazing. And also, this idea that they're looking at us from their vantage point. If that makes sense. Like in the same way that we look at Romans, or the same way Romans may have looked at Greeks, or the same way Greeks would have looked at, I don't know, oh man, I can't think of the name of the civilization. I want to say, well, Egyptians, yes, but there's another one before Egyptians. The same way they looked at these civilizations. They're looking at us. They're looking at us. And he is ashamed. Picard is absolutely ashamed. He's aghast when Q brings these charges up. We're not like that anymore. We're not like that. We left that garbage in the dustbin of history decades ago. This is man writing about man. He's in our time frame. But he's looking at what man would look at us like from that perspective. And he is horrified by the perspective and the fact that Q is judging him based on that perspective. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I like the episode. This isn't one of those. I find the episode itself, I think, is mind-blowing just from the standpoint of this godlike prosecutor who's judging man based on his actions. And Picard is resolutely making this point of, we're beyond that. If you're going to judge us by anything, judge us by who we are, not who we were. I like it. I like it. I like it. I'll leave it at that, because otherwise I'll wow out and I'll be an absolute fanboy for longer. Yeah, let me know if you like the Star Trek content. I love the Star Trek content. Like, it's one of those things where I get up early in the morning for Star Trek content, and I don't like getting up early in the morning. So I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, subscribe, and you can always support the work on Patreon or PayPal. Thanks, guys.